I'm Elio McDogherty, and every day thousands of woollybags are taken from their homes. And for the low price of 2.5 million euros a quarter, you could sponsor one of these woollybags to stay in its natural habitat. That's barely more than 20,000 euros a day. Barely more than 10,000 cups of coffee a day. Please, call and donate today.
What's up everyone, and welcome to another video for the Altered Trading Card Game. I'm Elio, and today we're going to be playing Korean Puff, and we're going to be trying to use all parts of the Puffalo. A friend of mine told me that they thought Muna Signet was the worst of the Signets and was stone cold unplayable. I think this is far from the case, though truthfully I love all the Signets. Their flexibility and power is exactly the type of card that I like to play. But the goal of my deck is to try to make use of all the different pieces of synergy available to Puff and her card pool. This starts with the Signet, and we will start with the least assuming part of the Signet, turning a terrain green. This has some obvious uses in Rin, but what about in other heroes like Korean Puff? Demeter is the first big ways of these. A big giant that can stay eternal for multiple lanes at a time. When you turn off her off-green lanes with Signet, Demeter dodges most cost-based removal as well as license withdrawal, which makes her a surprisingly potent beater when you need her to be. A different friend claimed that Mapmaker's Boon was one of the worst cards in the set, and I think this is actually a false trap. You start by comparing it to physical training and think that it's worse. Mapmaker's Boon is a little bit worse in the early game, but in the mid to late game, when you have 3 single terrain regions visible, the extra power turns this from an on-rate card to an above-rate card, and it is far easier to turn on than I think people expect. It happens naturally at the end of the game, but often you can anchor plus terramorph a region with a single Muna Signet and turn your future boons into powerful boosts. These are particularly powerful with anchored cards, which start to add extreme power for each mana/card that your opponent just has to find ways to deal with. To capitalize on Boon, we want some anchored threats. Each of these fills in different gaps. The Bumblebeat is nice and cheap and fights a sheep well later. The Spindle Harvester can be a nice little value on newly green lanes, and Sneezer Shroom is a good target for re-anchoring. Another piece of Signet makes 3 sheep on the board, one of which is on your opponent's side. There are a lot of ways to turn that into above rate value for ourselves. Pasiphae, Robin, and Colorful Cuckoo all feel great in a Sigismar-inspired go-wide meta, and can provide above-rate value. Filling in the rest of our slots, we have some interaction that will work well against different decks. Caladrius is one of my favorites, and is a great new addition that, worst case, can eat a sheep, but sometimes can eat something much more powerful. Sorry, Lindaway. We also have some disruption available in Muna. Jack Frost and Pan both provide different 2-mana reserve interaction. Pan's downside often is a non-issue with our go-wide hate. It also has the rare utility of being able to sabotage yourself to eke out a little bit of extra power. Finally, outside of uniques, we have some redundant anchoring in Muna Caregiver and some generic power in Helpful Pelican. With Puff, we're drawing extra cards, so having these cheap options, especially the Pelicans, which are very recastable from reserve, helps us take advantage of the extra cards that we're getting. And our uniques. Leo that loves to be anchored and helps us with our resource disruption when that's the appropriate game plan. A Snoozer Shroom that is big and can push board position, and a Sun Wukong that is also big and can help us anchor. I love how each of these is a little bit more flexible than it appears at first glance. That's the deck. Let's jump into some games. Okay, up against Soul. So I love keeping Boon. I think a bird is good to keep with this deck, of course. And I think this unique's pretty good. So I think Pan is something I wouldn't normally keep here, and these two are fine, you know, especially with like the caregiver ability to re-anchor the bird. Like another option is to do Shroom, Bird, Caregiver, and open with Shroom turn 1, and then Bird, Caregiver turn 2, where I plan on re-anchoring something. But I'm just like super boon pilled, and I'm going to use the boon. With this, I'll put the Shroom to the right, and hopefully, best case, they can just do a 1-lane win. Yeah, so they take 1 lane, we take 0. The Signet can turn on the boon, and it can re-anchor like the bird, so I'll put back the Pelican. That's kind of nice for us. So we can play the bird into this lane, and we can both advance, because we'll advance on water, and then we can play Harvester on the left, so we'll even up the lanes again. This is a great flip for us. I don't expect a ton of boost coming out of this, so I'll get rid of the Duende. Okay. I actually don't want them to get advantage from the Jin, so I think I am going to use the Exhaust ability on my Unique. And then I can anchor with the Signet, and I can turn their starting lane green so that we're just fighting over green there, and now the boon's on, and then I can plan to boon the bird. Yeah. I can also boon the Harvester if it feels like that's the right thing to do. But I wouldn't get double value out of it with the anchor. Yeah, so no reason to do it on the Harvester this turn. We can just do it on the bird. We'll both 1 for 1 here, but we'll have a 7/7 in play. I do think I want to continue anchoring this, so I'm going to keep this Signet. I want to keep the boon. This gets rid of Haluas for a really good cost, which I think means I'm getting rid of the Robin, which it's such a good card, but I should have better things in hand here. But I'll open up with the Harvester. We definitely have the ability to boon on it this turn if we need to. They are dueling who? The Harvester, okay. Now, I guess I re-anchor with the Signet, and then I can actually use a boon on a sheep to have enough power to beat the left lane. Yeah, so that's a 2-0 win for us here, and we're starting this turn with a billion power and play on the right side. Good Harvester to put boons on it, but I think I'm going to keep the Leo. But I think the right thing to do is keep the Harvester, but I end up keeping the Leo instead, but the Harvester would have worn these boons super well. But by doing the Leo, I take away one of their rush abilities and one of their cheap spells, so like that may mess with their sequencing, but we draw Pan anyway, which is going to disrupt that permanently. And yeah, so if we had played Harvester, we could have just won this turn. I think I was a little bit afraid of removal, where removal comes out on this. And I mean, that doesn't change much. I think that the right thing to do would have been to keep Harvester. Alas, we don't have a way to advance on this lane this turn. So I think we just pass here and don't let them get a counter. We'll go to 1 away from lethal. And we can plan on just keeping these boons. Get rid of the bird. Dimitri and Caladrius can be a good sequence here. Yeah, they play a bunch of things, but there's no way that they can stop us. So we can just play Dimitri in the right lane and Caladrius to kill the Halua for lethal. GG. Okay, up against Kojo. I am boon pilled. I'll keep one of these boons. Beauty Sleep is not great early. Spindle Harvesters just feels like it loses to a lot here. It's not super effective. I think I keep Shroom, and I Shroom on the right. I can follow up with Bumblebeat on either right or left, depending on where they put characters. And if we're lucky, they play like a 3-drop or something, which there's not a lot that Kojo would be playing round 1. But, you know, we're lucky they only play one thing, and we can 1-for-1 them. And then we have the boon for later. That Signet will turn on our boon. Yeah, so if they don't have a follow-up here, then this could be great. And this is really, really bad against, I mean, it's great for them against us. It's horrible for us that they have rages, which makes sense. I mean, I think it's great in Kojo. As much as I'd love to pan this Sarangar, I'm not going to get the opportunity, so I'm going to keep the other options and the power, and I'll likely... Like, it's hard for me to guarantee not losing O2 this turn with what I have, so I think I just use this turn to Signet and Anchor and turn something green. That way the boon is on, and we're at least going into next turn with power, but we're starting off 0-4. It's not great. Get rid of the Robin here. I really do like Pacify against Kojo. It's one of the ways that I'm going to be able to put a lot of power onto the board for cheap that will let us come back. This is pretty good for us that they're not getting things to flip here. We may be able to actually double advance this turn. I will boon on the Bumblebeat and at least guarantee this left lane. And their hand not being great for this round is really what we need to at least start this comeback. So now we're only down 2 points. We start with a 7-7-7 in play. 2 caregivers is a little greedy, so we'll get rid of one of them. Especially with us not fighting over Mountain anywhere right now. So I think like the ideal thing that happens this turn is that we manage to play Shroom here. They don't really do much to, you know, they play like Tiny Jin. We play a caregiver out, and then we can actually Duende and put a lot of power on an anchored Shroom to win both lanes. So I'll start with the caregiver on the left. I can play the Shroom out to the right, which just looks like we're setting up for the Woollyback next turn. So even if they have like a Rage this turn, it'd be pretty weird for them to use it. And indeed, they pass. They have Rage, but they don't do anything, and we can Duende, and we should advance both lanes here. And then we'll have the caregiver available next turn to re-anchor this Shroom. So we're back to even. Pelican here. We don't need 2 Pelicans. You know, there's a question of like, do you anchor immediately and dodge more sabotage? Often there's like 2 bounces in these. Maybe they're running 3. Or do you save it and give flexibility of what you're anchoring to dodge Duel of Grit? I'm going to try to dodge Duel of Grit and removal. And you know, I don't like to tip the hand so early, but I think I just have to play the Sun Wukong left. And then in case what they do have is removal, I'll play Shroom to the right here. And instead it is a unique Bravo Signaler, which will unfortunately hit our anchor, which does bite. I'll go ahead and play the Pelican out though, so that I have a cheaper thing from reserve to play. That is so many resupplies. With the Haven, it's not a good position for us. Get rid of the Signet here for sure. Well, I don't think we're winning the left lane, so I'll play the Pelican to the right. Now, at Caladrius, I shrink them anyway, so like Pacify isn't getting bigger by doing that, so I guess I just play Pacify first. That hits Pacify, and then we can Caladrius to 1-for-1. Get rid of Pan. They have so many things in reserve, it doesn't really help us to have it. we're in a very tough spot. We can try to get to overtime here, though, fighting over the right side. I think that I have to preserve my resources. It may have been a little bit early to play the Beauty Sleep there, but I wanted to leave the opportunity of Beauty Sleep, Pasiphae. But with them hitting this Mighty Djinn, which is just really good in the left lane and gives them both Djinn plus Fire Rabbit, we're back to fighting over the right side. So we'll play the Shroom on the right. They have too many options here that we can't beat. So we play Pasiphae left. They're going to be able to stop something. But at least we go to the arena. They've got a little bit more power than us. Well, they've got a lot more power than us going into here because they get the Buddha token and they get the Sarengar. We even up the Buddha token with the Shroom, but we'll have to put that to sleep or something. It's a really rough spot. Yeah, the Pasiphae's like not bad, but would have loved to have a secret fourth Pasiphae. Can open up with sleep so that our Pasiphaes get as big as they possibly can. But just from what we see here, it's not going to be enough. Okay, up against Teija. Love Duende against Teija. There's not always great Caladrius targets. Maybe they have Harvesters, maybe they don't. But I'm boon-pilled, so I'll take the boon and I'll take the bird. And I'll plan on playing the bird round 1. Especially with them going first, it means that we can play the bird into this lane, and if we're lucky, they go this lane, which they did, and so we can trade 1 for 1. But even without that, we still often go this lane just to get the free power versus the sheep next turn. Get rid of the caregiver here. With this not going to the reserve this turn, it's awkward to play the caregiver and try to get like sequenced birds with it. I can play the Harvester left and potentially Duende to grow it this turn. The Robin was a great draw because it gives us one more stall play to do with that. So we'll open with the Harvester. We'll likely play the Robin on the right, though it may sometimes make sense to play it on the left to grow this more and then grow the Harvester more as well. But since they played a stall play, they can still probably grow the power here in a way that we want to get 2 grass here while we can. So we'll play Robin here. And they play a unique Inari. That's going to anchor the bird, but they aren't blocking us on grass here. And with the Duende, we can advance both left and right, and they'll advance just right. So we'll take a 2-1 lead here, which feels good. They had to overflow a lot to do that. They're kind of relying on having a big bird to stick around to be rewarded for doing that. We'll get rid of the Shroom here. But the Duende really punished them. We are the one with the bigger character. Now they, in order to win this lane, they have to play more into it, which doesn't feel great. So I could jack this Inari, but I kind of, they also just may play something from hand and they'll overflow anyway, in which case the Sabotage doesn't get much value out of it. And if they're going to play this Inari without gaining advantage from the unique ability, I think I'm okay with that. So I'll just play our bird right, setting up for the sheep next turn. And yeah, they play their unique. They will be blocking us effectively here. We can't get enough power on the boon to go over on the water. So they'll even with the board, but we get rid of this unique. And we're in a good position going into subsequent rounds where we have huge card advantage. We have power on board. I like this other unique. I like the Jack as they're low on resources. They can continue to do things to pester those resources and make their life hard. So I think I get rid of the Robin. Especially we have so many 1-drops already. And we'll open up with the Jack rather than the Leo, since if they play both things, they're going to overflow anyway. We'll probably follow up with whatever they don't sabotage here. So Harvester on the left. And they play a unique Ogun. We have multiple ways to gain enough power to advance here, none of which are going to block them. So we'll do the Pasiphae. I'd rather keep this as like a surprise. Also, it's cheaper from hand, so the Anger ability could be good, but yeah, I'll do the Pasiphae. Get rid of the Jack, it's just a more expensive Pelican. Now, they're likely to open with something from reserve, so having 2 reserve interactions seems a little bit overkill. I'll get rid of the Pan. We don't have a bird or anything in this lane right now to take advantage of the sheep. But we will Leo immediately so that they can't play this Ogun yet. And a Munidruid, we should be able to get lethal this turn. Yeah, a Boon on the left will overflow them there, and anything on the right side will complete the lethal. Yeah, GG.